All right, so you're here because you really want to get this whole work-life balance thing right.
Yeah, you want more than just the surface level stuff, right? Like you actually want to
Okay.
find something that, works for you without getting totally overwhelmed with, you know, a ton of information.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we're all about here on the deep dive, right? Taking a deep dive. We go deep so you don't have to.
We pull out those really important insights, the ones that can actually make a real difference.
Exactly, we kind of act as that sounding board as we go through this stuff.
Yeah, and today we're diving into this podcast called Finding Harmony.
Okay, finding harmony.
Yeah, and they had this really interesting conversation about work-life balance,
Okay.
hosted by Alex and Taylor.
Alex and Taylor.
Yeah, so our goal today is to kind of guide you through, what they discussed and highlight like the most valuable stuff they found.
Okay, so think of us as your expert guides through finding harmony.
Yeah, and we're going to tailor it to, helping you build a more fulfilling, well-rounded life.
Okay, love it. So what did they say? What's the essence of work-life balance according to finding harmony?
Well, they went beyond that simple idea, that there's a perfect split between work life and personal life.
Right.
Instead, they kind of framed it as like a more individual things, like creating a healthy dynamic,
Okay.
whether that means like separating them completely or, integrating them in a thoughtful way.
Right.
But it's about aligning it with your needs and preferences.
It's very personal.
Yeah. And what's interesting is they emphasized that it's not like a one-time achievement.
Right.
It's a continuous process.
Oh, a continuous process.
You have to constantly adjust.
That's interesting. So it's not like you reach this perfect balance and then you're good.
No, no.
Okay.
Taylor actually pointed out that you're constantly adjusting, and it involves prioritizing what really matters to you,
Right.
developing strategies to deal with stress and setting boundaries.
So those three things kind of work together all the time.
Yeah, it's like a constant interaction.
Okay, so there's no one right answer.
Exactly. And the hosts of Finding Harmony were really clear about that. There's no universal blueprint.
Okay.
So what works for someone who likes a clear separation between their work and personal life
Right.
might be totally different for someone who prefers, a more fluid approach.
Right.
So it's really about understanding yourself.
Yeah. Knowing what you want.
Yeah, and aligning your choices with
Okay.
that.
But it's not just about you, right?
Of course not. There's so many outside factors.
Wait, Olivia, what kind of things?
Well, Alex and Taylor mentioned your company's culture,
Oh, yeah, that makes a huge difference.
the demands of your job,
Right.
responsibilities you have outside of work,
Yeah.
even your long-term ambitions.
Okay.
All of those things play a part in shaping your work-life balance.
So it's more than just clocking in and clocking out.
Way more nuanced.
Okay.
And it's interesting because the whole idea of work-life balance has changed over time.
Yeah.
Well, Finding Harmony talked about how there's been a shift. We used to be very work-centric,
Right.
but now there's more recognition that well-being is important.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Not just for us personally,
Right.
but for productivity too.
Yeah. You can't really pour from an empty cup, right?
Exactly. And they said employers are starting to see that.
Mm.
They see that happy, healthy employees are better for the company.
Yeah, it's like it's not even just being nice anymore.
No, it's becoming a strategic thing for them
Okay.
because, happy employees means a better business.
Right. So that's the ideal situation.
Yeah. But we know it's not always that easy.
Right. So what were some of the challenges that they talked about?
Technology was a big one.
Oh, yeah. Technology is a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Totally. Finding Harmony talked about how being constantly connected has blurred the lines between work and personal time.
Yeah, you never really switch off, do you?
No. And that feeling of always being on call,
Mm-hmm.
it can be really hard to disconnect and recharge.
Yeah.
And that leads to burnout.
Right. Makes sense. And it's almost become an expectation now, hasn't it? To always be available.
Oh, definitely. Even with the flexibility that technology gives us.
Right.
Taylor talked about how easy it is for work to creep into your personal time.
Yeah, even if you're working remotely.
Yeah, it's like the office just moved into your home.
Yeah, but it didn't learn any manners.
No, it didn't respect your boundaries.
Right.
And then there's the pressure to perform.
Oh, yeah. You always feel like you have to be doing more.
Exactly. And Alex and Taylor said, a lot of workplaces reward people for working long hours.
Even if it means, sacrificing your well-being.
Exactly. And they also talked about social media.
Oh, yeah. How does that play into it?
Well, it can make things worse because you're constantly seeing these like perfect versions of other people's lives.
Right. Everyone's always posting about their successes and how busy they are.
Exactly. And it makes you feel like you're not doing enough if you're not doing the
It's just
same.
like you're constantly comparing yourself.
Yeah. And Alex made a good point about redefining what success actually means.
Okay, how do you mean?
Well, moving away from those external markers
Right.
and realizing that rest and personal time are not luxuries.
Okay, yeah.
They're essential for your well-being.
Yeah, it's not selfish to take time for yourself.
Not at all.
Okay.
And finding harmony was really clear about how all this pressure can lead to a vicious cycle.
What do you mean?
Overwork leads to stress. Stress leads to burnout.
Yeah.
And then they also mentioned external factors too,
Yeah.
things that are outside of our control,
Like what kind of things?
like economic uncertainty,
Right.
job insecurity,
Yeah, those are big ones.
global events.
Okay.
All of these things shape how and where we work.
And it's not always positive, is it?
No, it can create new challenges to finding that balance.
Like with remote work?
Yeah, some people love it,
Right.
but it can also be really hard to keep work and life separate when you're working from home.
Okay, so the type of company you work for really matters.
Oh, absolutely. Alex and Taylor talked about how companies that genuinely care about work-life balance make a huge difference.
Yeah, but it's not enough just to have policies, right?
No, it has to be part of the actual culture.
Right, so what do they say about that?
Well, Finding Harmony said it's about more than just talking the talk.
Yeah, you have to walk the walk.
Exactly. It requires open communication,
Yeah.
trust between employers and employees,
Right.
and respect for boundaries.
Okay.
So it's not just about saying you have a work-life balance policy, it's about actually living it.
It has to be real.
Yeah. And one of the things I really liked was that they shared their own personal stories.
Oh, yeah. What do they say?
Well, Taylor talked about a time when she was working on this really demanding project,
Okay.
and she realized she was putting work above everything else.
Yeah.
And it started to affect her health
Right.
and her relationships.
Okay.
She said she felt really isolated,
Yeah, that makes sense.
like she was disconnected from the things that actually mattered to her. And Alex shared a similar experience. He went through a period where he was super stressed,
Okay.
and he stopped taking care of himself.
What do you mean?
Like he stopped exercising, he stopped relaxing.
Yeah.
And he said it even started to affect his work.
Yeah, if you're burnt out, you can't do your best work, can you?
Exactly.
So what changed for them? How did they get back on track?
Well, for Taylor, it was a conscious decision.
Okay.
She started scheduling me time.
Like actually putting it in her calendar.
Yep. She treated it like it was just as important as a work meeting.
Wow, okay.
And she started doing things like taking breaks during the day,
Mm.
practicing mindfulness, and making sure she had days off where she didn't work at all.
So she was really intentional about it.
Yeah. And she said it actually made her more productive.
Really?
Yeah, and happier too.
Okay, so making time for yourself can actually make you better at your job.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. What about Alex? What did he do?
Well, he learned to say no.
Oh, that's a tough one.
It is. But he started saying no to tasks that weren't essential.
Okay,
And he got better at delegating.
right.
And he started setting more realistic expectations for himself.
So he was basically taking control of his workload.
Yeah. And he realized that those things weren't signs of weakness.
Right.
They were essential for his well-being.
Yeah, it's self-care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Taylor also emphasized the importance of routine.
Oh, yeah, routines are good.
Yeah, she said it's important to have a consistent schedule,
Okay,
even if you're working from home,
right.
with clear start and finish times.
So you're not just working all the time.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they both said that while routine is important, flexibility is important too.
Yeah, life happens. All right.
Exactly. Things don't always go according to plan.
Right.
So they said work-life balance is an ongoing thing.
Okay.
It's about figuring out what works for you and adjusting as you go.
So it's not about being perfect.
Yeah.
It's about finding what's sustainable,
Yeah, finding a way to nurture both your professional and personal life.
long term.
Yes, long term.
Okay, so what were some of the practical tips they gave?
Setting boundaries was a big one.
Okay, how do you do that?
Well, they said it's about being clear about your work hours
Okay.
and communicating them to your colleagues.
Right.
If you work from home, they said it's good to have a dedicated workspace.
So you have a physical separation between work and life.
Exactly. And they said you should use technology to your advantage.
How do you mean?
Well, things like setting do not disturb modes on your devices.
Oh, yeah, so you're not getting notifications all the time.
Exactly. And they said you should treat your work hours like a meeting
Okay.
with a clear start and end time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they suggested having a transition ritual.
What's that?
Well, it's like something you do at the end of the workday to signal to your brain that work is over.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah, like taking a walk or doing some breathing exercises.
Or even just changing your clothes.
Yeah, anything that helps you switch gears.
Okay, cool. What else did they recommend?
Time blocking.
Time blocking.
Yeah, it's basically scheduling blocks of time for everything you need to do.
Oh,
So not just work tasks,
right.
but also personal stuff.
Like what?
Exercise, hobbies, spending time with family.
Okay, so you're being intentional about how you spend your time.
Exactly. And they said it's good to prioritize your tasks.
Oh, yes. You're focusing on the most important things first.
Yeah, and they mentioned the Eisenhower matrix.
The Eisenhower matrix.
Yeah, it's a tool that helps you figure out what's urgent and what's important.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty useful. And they really stressed the importance of self-care.
Self-care.
Yeah, things like meditation, exercise,
Mm-hmm.
spending time in nature.
Right.
They said it's not a luxury.
Yeah, it's a necessity.
Exactly. And they said it's good to incorporate small self-care practices throughout the day,
Like what?
like taking a few minutes to do some deep breathing,
Okay.
or going for a quick walk,
Right.
or just stepping away from your screen for a few minutes.
Yeah, I need to do that more often.
Me too. And they also said it's important to ask for help.
Oh, yeah, not trying to do everything yourself.
Exactly. Whether it's at work or at home,
Right.
delegating tasks when you can,
Okay.
and not being afraid to reach out to your support network.
Yeah, it's okay to ask for help.
It is. It doesn't mean you're weak.
Right.
It just means you're being smart.
Okay, so they talked about what individuals can do,
Yeah.
but what about the role of employers?
Well, Finding Harmony said that employers have a huge role to play in fostering work-life balance.
Okay.
They talked about how employee well-being is directly linked to productivity.
Yeah, happy employees are more productive employees.
Exactly. So they said companies should invest in programs that support their employees.
Like what kind of programs?
Well, things like wellness programs,
Okay.
flexible work arrangements,
Right.
and mental health resources.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they said it's really important to have a workplace culture where people feel comfortable talking about their needs and boundaries.
Yeah, if you don't feel like you can talk to your boss about these things, it's going to be hard to find that balance.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it starts at the top.
So what do you mean?
Well, Finding Harmony said that leaders need to set the example.
Okay.
If they value work-life balance and they show it in their own lives,
Right.
it sets the tone for the whole organization.
Yeah, actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. And they said it's not enough to just have policies.
Right.
The actual workplace culture has to support those policies.
So there can't be this unspoken expectation to always be available, even if the policy says you don't have to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And Taylor said it's important for managers to lead by example,
How so?
like taking their own breaks, setting their own boundaries, and encouraging their team members to do the same.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So it creates a more supportive environment for everyone.
Right.
And it's not just for people who work in traditional jobs.
What do you mean?
Well, Alex and Taylor also talked about freelancers and entrepreneurs.
Oh, yeah, they have to set their own boundaries.
Exactly. They don't have the same structures as a traditional workplace.
Right, so it can be even harder for them to switch off.
Yeah, definitely. And I thought it was really interesting how they talked about strategies for different life stages and careers.
Yeah, oh, yeah. What did they say about that?
Well, they said that for young professionals who are just starting out, it's important to learn how to manage expectations.
Yeah.
Not overcommitting,
Right.
building sustainable habits from the beginning,
Okay.
and learning to say no.
Yeah, saying no is so hard when you're starting out.
I know, but it's so important.
Right.
And they said it's important for young professionals to prioritize self-care early on.
Okay. What about people who are mid-career?
Well, they said for mid-career professionals, it's often about juggling a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah, both at work and at home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they said it's important to be really good at time management
Okay.
and to have clear role definitions at home.
Like who's doing what?
Yeah. And they also said it can be helpful to seek support.
Like coaching or mentoring.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and what about senior professionals?
Well, for senior professionals and entrepreneurs, they said it's really about managing your energy
Oh, yeah.
just as much as managing your time.
Okay.
So they talked about things like mindfulness practices,
Right.
exercise routines,
Yeah.
and even therapy.
Okay.
And they said it's important to remember that stress is often a part of the journey,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't control your life.
Right.
And they also shared some questions and insights from their listeners.
Oh, yeah, I love that part.
Yeah, it's always interesting to hear what other people are struggling with.
Totally. So what were some of the questions that stood out to you?
Well, one listener named Sam asked about creating a routine that's both productive and enjoyable,
Hmm.
you know, without being too rigid. So the advice was to find a balance between structure and flexibility,
Okay.
like having core hours for essential work tasks,
Right.
but leaving some open blocks in your schedule for other things.
Okay, so you have some structure, but you're not completely locked in.
Exactly. And another listener, Jamie, asked about how to deal with work pressure creeping into personal time.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
It is. And the suggestion was to have a transition ritual.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah. So like taking a walk or doing some breathing exercises after work
Mm.
to signal that you're done for the day.
Right.
And they also talked about the guilt that a lot of people feel when they take time for themselves.
Oh, yeah.
So they said it's important to schedule your breaks and leisure activities.
Okay.
Like they're just as important as a work meeting.
So putting them in your calendar?
Yeah. And they said you have to shift your mindset.
Okay.
You have to see personal time as an investment.
Non-indulgence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they said that finding the right balance is a personal journey. What works for one person might not work for another.
Yeah, and it might take some trial and error to figure out what works best for you.
Definitely.
So it's not just about individuals, though, is it?
No, finding harmony also talked about the bigger picture.
Okay, what do they say about that?
Well, they said that work-life balance isn't just a personal issue.
Yeah.
It's a societal issue.
How so?
Well, they said that our collective well-being depends on creating work environments that support healthy lives.
Right.
And they said that people who have a better work-life balance are happier,
Okay.
more creative,
Yeah.
more engaged,
Right.
and that they contribute more to society.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it has a ripple effect.
Exactly.
And they talked about how it could lead to things like more innovation,
Okay.
lower healthcare costs,
Right.
and an overall better quality of life for everyone.
So it's not just about individual happiness.
No, it's about the well-being of society as a whole.
Okay.
And they said there's a positive cultural shift happening.
Oh, yeah, like what?
Well, people are more aware of mental health now,
Right.
and there's more emphasis on sustainable productivity.
Rather than just working all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they said that even small individual efforts can make a difference.
Oh, yeah, like what kind of efforts?
Well, like setting boundaries,
Yeah.
prioritizing self-care.
Right.
Those things can contribute to positive change on a larger scale.
Okay, so it's not just about us as individuals. It's about creating a better world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they emphasize that finding this balance is an ongoing process.
Right.
It's about learning and adapting as our lives change.
So it's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah, exactly.
So as we wrap up here, what are some of the key takeaways from finding harmony?
Well, they talked about setting clear boundaries.
Right.
Being flexible and adaptable.
Okay.
Prioritizing self-care.
Yeah.
Redefining what success means to you.
Okay.
And asking for support when you need it.
Right.
And they said it's important to start small.
Okay.
Build sustainable habits over time. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
That's good advice.
And they also said that work-life balance is a continuous journey.
Yeah, it's not something you achieve and then you're done.
No, it's about constantly adjusting and reflecting as your life changes.
Okay, so for our listeners out there, what's one thing they can do today to start finding more balance in their lives?
Well, think about one small action you could take today.
Okay.
Something that will help you integrate well-being into your work life.
Right.
Maybe it's setting a specific time to step away from work,
Okay.
or scheduling a break to do something you enjoy,
Yeah.
or having a conversation with someone about your boundaries.
Right.
Just one small thing that you can do today.
That's a great challenge. So think about that for a minute after the show.
Yeah, what's one small step you can take?
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into finding harmony
Yeah, we hope this has given you some good ideas to think about.
and some practical tips to try out in your own life.
And remember, it's a journey.
Yeah, and we're all in this together.
Exactly.
All right, thanks for listening.
See you next time.